Welcome to the pregame.com behind the scenes in Las Vegas. We're joined by Vegas Runner for the first time this football season. Ace, you've been traveling around, playing some table games.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have actually just returned a few nights ago, extended my trip a little bit from New Orleans, left last Wednesday night, Thursday, got there for the opening season game, Saints, Minnesota, and just got back.
So what was your take? Let's talk about that game. You were there. What was your take on the field?
Incredible. I mean, the atmosphere there was electric. And if it wasn't Brett Favre at the controls, Minnesota would have had a lot more problems. I mean, he's just so
I actually
poised.
thought, it seems like the press is saying Favre didn't play well in that game. I thought, especially for the first game of the year, he played fairly well.
Yeah, and I mean, if you were there, I was sitting there with Prim actually and saying how intimidated I would have been if I was the opponent.
Okay.
It was like two guys meeting after school and everyone's surrounding the fence, to watch two guys fight and one's from another place,
Yeah, and everyone wants one guy to win.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't Brett Favre, I think any other quarterback would have got rattled and the Saints would have just rolled over them because they came out so enthused when they brought out that Super Bowl banner. They unrolled it, and there was a parade in the city beforehand. I mean, it's a really big deal in that city. I didn't realize just how big the Saints are to that town.
Now, I was at the Superdome for the Ohio State LSU National Championship, and there was a real bias towards LSU in that game. And what dawned on me is the loudness of the crowd was significant. I've heard other wise guys say that New Orleans might have the best home field in football
by far. I think now, believe it or not, I went back and I said, I'm adjusting my home numbers for New Orleans. Like, I saw it with my own eyes. It's just the stadiums gives them such a huge edge, and the fans there are incredible. And it's funny, I asked a lot of people, was it always a Saints town? And most of them were honest and said no. Only the last couple years since Katrina did they really fall in love with this team.
I remember when I was a kid, they had the Aints
exactly.
And the bag
I mean, they've always, that's what they have there, so they've always supported them, but not to this extent when they got really good. I mean, the city takes off more or less. If you don't have tickets to the game, you're at the game. You're at the Superdome for 5-6 block span. I'm talking, it's chaos. People in the streets drinking, dancing. It's incredible. And I've seen a lot of games. Philly's one of those towns which is very enthusiastic when it comes to sports.
Pro and con.
Exactly. But this was like nothing I've ever seen before.
I grew up in Ohio where high school football was probably only matched in intensity by Texas. And when we made the playoffs, sometimes there'd be signs up that says, turn the lights off, last one out. Everyone was leaving for the game.
Yeah.
The whole city was gone.
Exactly. And you know what's funny, too? In Philly, I was laughing because, the number was right on 5. It opened at 4, went to 5, pretty much 5.5 some places. And most people I know got 5. Make a long story short, anywhere else, you'd see some people a little upset at the end of the game. There, it didn't matter, what I mean? Whether the people pushed or whatever, everyone was excited to be there, man.
So some handicapping takeaways then. Don't underestimate the Saints' home field,
Not
especially
at all.
in a prime time game like this.
Absolutely.
Number 2 is Favre the Vikings look better than you expected, and maybe better than the press is saying.
For them not to get overwhelmed, I mean, early I thought once the Saints marched down and scored, just the way everything transpired, it looked like they could turn this into a blowout because their defense was on point, their offense was clicking, but Minnesota stayed in the game and were taking their best shots. So to be honest with you, I was impressed that they did not lose that game by double digits in the end.
That's interesting. And considering Minnesota has a great home field themselves, though probably, in my opinion, a little bit less than New Orleans, you would think they wouldn't be a very good road team. But even last year, even though they lost in Pittsburgh, and they almost beat the Saints in the champion, really, as many people have said, they were the better team.
And I think that was the chip on the shoulder. Everyone I was hearing outside the game, inside, the box, we were fortunate enough that Harris put us up in their suite. Everyone in there was saying...
Wait, let's talk about the Harris Suite.
You know how
many suites do they have?
Corporations have luxury
They only have
boxes.
one.
Yeah, that's the one I saw, And we were lucky, had the first row right there on that.
Now, how many people were in the entire... I've never... I gotta be honest.
I think there was like 10 seats on one side, 10 on the other, like a few
Okay.
rows of 5 or
And
6
how was the
up.
food?
It was awesome. New Orleans food, I give them credit. They can
that's
eat
it.
and they can cook there. And I mean, it was real perfect because I've been down low, and you always think like 50-yard line seats, down low is good, but those players are so tall. I remember for Monday night football tickets in Philly, I'll never forget paying all this money, sitting down low and not being able to see the game. And here, you're at that first level,
Okay.
so you're looking down as the plays transpire, as everything happens. So, I mean, it was just great the way they accommodated us.
Now, you got some pictures you took on the trip.
I
that
took
we're
a
gonna
lot
be-
of pictures, man. Can't
we're
wait
gonna be
to post
posting those
them.
in the forum.
Absolutely.
So shifting gears real quick, you guys were playing the table games pretty hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you compare the experience playing hard in New Orleans and Harrah's is the main casino there, right?
Correct.
Compared to Vegas.
You're treated better there.
Because you're a bigger fish relative.
Exactly. I mean, when you go as an invited guest, more times than not, you get that respect up front. They know you're going to play. They know you're a player. So, they're nice to you off the bat. But when you're at a smaller property like that, it's so different than here in Vegas. Everyone already knows your name. I kind of compare it to what a lot of people tell me Vegas was like, 30 years ago. Where when you walked in, the people at the tables, the pit bosses,
like Casino, the movie
the people
Casino.
at the cage, everyone knew your name. Everyone knew who was who. And that's how it was there. When you go to the cage, they knew your name. When you went to valet, they knew your name. Everyone knew who you were. Where here in Vegas, I mean, you're a dime a dozen. Even though you may play in the high limit pit or you might play, higher stakes, you're just one of a number of people. And I mean, here you got whales with $1 million credit lines. And, I don't play that kind of level, I'm not a $10 table player either, but, I'm not a whale. But there, you're a lot bigger player than you are here for sure.
All right, interesting. Anything else about
Enough
the trip?
to get invited back. Enough to get invited back.
So you're planning on, you're getting comp for the Steelers Saints
Steelers
game.
Saints Sunday night, Halloween. Everyone tells me.
I don't know if you've noticed, I'm kind of a Steelers fan.
Yeah,
So
I know. I'm
when you
taking
cue
that into
stuff up-
consideration. I already have 2 tickets locked in. They said for sure. They say Halloween's
I'm
better
putting
than
them on
Mardi
the
Gras.
spot on camera.
Better than Mardi Gras because of the fact Mardi Gras has so many tourists.
Well, I've been down New Orleans for New Year's Eve, and it was so crowded that you actually would get lifted by the crowd.
It's not fun when it's like that. It's like New
is.
Year's Eve on the Strip. I'll never do it again
Yeah.
because it's not a good time.
Yeah.
It's nice to look at, but it's not nice to be in there for it. But we're going back for Halloween for sure to watch that Steelers Sunday night game, and I can't wait, man. New Orleans is a great city. Highly recommend if you want to go enjoy yourself, a party town that's like Vegas, but more normal. You know what I mean? If that makes sense to you. Less fantasy, more reality.
It's grittier.
Exactly.
It's almost like imagine like 6 or 8 blocks in New York City, blocked off and all about partying. That with a southern flair. Though.
Exactly. Great people, man. Hospitality second to none.
All right. Now it's your turn to continue the conversation in the comments section with me and Vegas Runner, and we'll be back with other videos for this week.